customer email to case, comes into the org, and AI is going to take that and do something with it?
Yeah. Email is just one of those things where, you can't live with it. You can't live without it. Customers prefer to use it for support, any sort of communication. So customer out in the field could just, send an email. In this case, this would be, someone working on a generator maybe. So they click send. You enable Salesforce email to case. And so all that routing is taking place. You could have a support at GenWatt generators, any type of name like that.
So
And
the case is going to show up after email to case.
yeah. So
Oh,
the
so I
case
see
shows
it.
up here. And normally, it would just kind of sit there. You would probably send an email to a service tech. It gets prioritized. There's a status. But what's happened here is actually the customer already got an autoresponder. And AI has said, hey, okay, let me summarize your problem. Here's a proposed solution. I can click on it, and I can go right into a chatbot who's engaging with me, this backed by knowledge of hundreds of documents and support manuals. And then, and we can dive in and deconstruct what just happened there.
Oh, wow. Let's do it. Okay, roll the intro. We'll get back to it.
Yeah, I'm Mike Leach. It goes through a series of describing the case, account contact, and case comments, then assigns it to an output. You may already be using RAG, particularly if you've built your own GPT. AI is going to be a skill like Excel or word processing. And people will list on their resume, I have expertise in writing prompts that generate contracts or review contracts.
Welcome, everyone. I'm extremely excited you're here for this event. If you just missed the week-long virtual GPT Dreaming event, you can get the details to watch the playback for free using the links in the resources below. If you're streaming from X, YouTube, or LinkedIn, you'll need to watch our platform to get the resources that we prepared for you. And the fastest way to do this is to go to aiforcetraining.com/live. It'll get you right there and you'll have everything you need. I am more than excited to welcome today's expert, Mike Leach. Mike has been an inspiration for me on the journey to accelerate the adoption of AI. As a Salesforce ISV, he's been pushing hard for over a year now, much longer than a year, obviously, with his expertise, but in the AI space specifically to deliver AI solutions that we would typically expect from inside our org. And he's doing that through his brand called iDialogue. So please, everybody, welcome to the stage, Mike Leach. Mike, you've been delivering custom AI solutions for customers for over the past year now. Let's dive in. Can you please explain to me what we just went through in the intro here?
Yeah. And just to thank you briefly, pulling off GPT Dreaming, your second one in less than a year. Congrats. The amount of effort that's been going into that is incredible. But yeah, so what we did at GPT Dreamin' was actually a chat bot. It was a live conversational AI. And we talked a little bit about agents and automating a lot of that in the background. And so in this session, we can get a little more into it. So, conversational, if you go back and kind of look at my presentation, we talked through a series of steps and how you can converse with a case. But, and we kind of hinted on an agent working in the background. So what just happened here is we've enabled email to case. So that's kind of the fundamental prerequisite to this type of workflow. And we've set up an email address as an endpoint. And as the emails come in, they get handled by this flow. So record trigger flow on case create. And so I'll show two cases here. Actually, one is going to be like a FedEx UPS shipping use case where emails are coming into the body and we want to extract certain content. And the flow we just ran here was if it was matched to a contact, and it's in, just you're receiving a typical customer support email. And they may structure their emails in various ways. They might, put the problem they're having in the subject. It could be in the description. They could be attaching documents. They might be slightly misspelling product names and types. And so humans probably spend the first, 20 to 30% of an inbound case just kind of sorting out, what is the product? What is the intent? What does this user really want? And the nice thing with AI is, these emails could be coming in at 3 a.m. and we just give GPT the whole payload of this case. So what we did here is this
Hold
actually,
on, that does not look easy. First of
yeah, well,
all, I
this
just have to
this
say.
looks a lot, yeah, this is actually a lot easier than it looks.
Okay.
The reason I'm doing this is if I were to take out a lot of these exception handling and conditional branches, we would probably just make a beeline to the endpoint. So, as a flow developer, if you're looking for a career in AI, prompt engineering, it's not so much what makes a polished solution isn't so much the GPT, it's the handling the unexpected and the conditional branches. So a lot of that is here in the flow. So I use subflows. I think that's a great structure. We have one point of entry here on case create, and we can ask a number of questions and delegate to subflows depending on how we want to process this email to case. So first of all, I think we're probably even checking, so the origin of this case needs to be email. So this particular case flow would not be conflicting from web or portal or phone or anything else. So purely an email case. We jump into the subflow for troubleshoot and auto respond. So the first thing we're going to do is get the case record, and we're going to summarize the case. And if you've been in ChatGPT, you're probably well aware that with just a few words, you can ask ChatGPT to summarize anything. You can cut and paste a document. You could point it at a document. You could point it at a website and just say summarize. So this particular flow action. So if I went to the upper left here, action, and I want it to do an AI completion. So under the hoods, what ChatGPT is actually doing at the API level is a series of what they call completions. And
So
I've
you're taking the context of the case,
Mhm.
putting it in, using that action there into the AI language model. And what are you retrieving back from that? What are you looking for?
Yeah, it's a good question. So what I'm retrieving back is I want AI to give me a response that can be embedded in an email. So I have to ground this AI that, first of all, they need to understand that anything they reply with is going to go into an email to a customer. And I've even given it some outer context of the template it's going into. You can tell it, hey, there's a greeting in the header, there's a call to action. So don't, extend and try to write a whole email. So the way I do that.
So so you're actually going to try. The ultimate goal is to get that response to the customer. So you're just at
Um,
or no?
oh, good point. I think I got a step ahead. That would be the FAQ. So
Okay.
so there's we're making two GPT calls here. The first one. So first we're going to ground this bot in what's called a system prompt. And I'm writing code here. I mean, this is next generation code, but this is a NLU, natural language understanding. So an AI business analyst, developer, this is what they do day to day. And the grounding might change sprint to sprint. So we're actually just telling this AI model, hey, you are a customer service representative with many years of experience. You're assisting a customer support representative. And here are the case details. And so we're giving it a series of kind of name value pairs. Here's the case number. But what is most critical to this particular email to case is the subject of the email is being fed to the AI via the subject, and the body of the email is in the description. Those are really the two key data points within this grounding that AI is going to leverage. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. So you got some prompt engineering at the top. You're ingesting the case related details. Okay, go ahead. Yeah, yeah.
And so what I'm doing, this is actually our audience for this is the internal Salesforce user, the customer service rep. So if they ever come back to this case and maybe it's a happy customer, they accepted the case, but I still kind of want this high level summary. So what I'm going to get back from this first action is so here's the grounding, here's the system prompt, and here's what we actually asked GPT to do. We said summarize this case in under 100 words, be concise, and that's it. Really, there's no other.
Super simple prompt. Yeah.
A real simple prompt. This is exactly the kind of stuff that I know you teach in your course. And then on the output, what we're going to get back is a completion string. And I'm going to assign that to a variable called AI summary. And I
And
talked
that's what
about it.
shows up on the record, right? You were just on the record
Yeah,
earlier.
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So this is a placeholder for what I get back from GPT and AI summary. And if I kind of, go to the finish line here on this update case, I think we'll probably see that, that AI summary is being written to the Salesforce custom field AI summary.
Got it. Interesting. Okay, so you send your prompt out, you include case details that came in from that email. That goes out to AI. You get a completion back, which is stored as a variable in the flow. Then you move along to update the record to take that stored text and you drop it into the record for the end user who shows up to the case to then have as an AI summary to read.
That's right. That's right. And if you recall back to GPT Dreamit in August, we had actually a much larger flow that was just a series of one input, one output. So it would translate it to a language, it would
I
summarize.
remember that. That
There was
was a cool
some
demo. Yeah.
customer sentiment. And so we did a series. And so what has evolved actually since then in the last 6 months is GPT now supports JSON, JavaScript object notation, as a viable output. And so now we have this ability, instead of running, say, 5 different unique transactions, now we're going to do this as a, let's see here. Oh, sorry. Again, I'm getting ahead to the shipping demo. But okay, so now what we want to do is solve the
Wait,
customer
now I'm
problem.
intrigued. You have a
Yeah,
shipping
yeah.
demo?
Yeah. So so what we've
Don't
kind of
jump
done
to it,
is
but I'm interested. I'm interested in that
okay.
one.
I'm getting excited. I got ahead to the shipping demo, but yeah. So what we've done here is with the summary, our target audience was somebody internal. You could think of yourself as an AI developer. You sit down with the customer support rep, and you can say, "Hey, you know what? This volume of cases you're getting, would it help if I just did a summary of every case?" So that's kind of what we solved there. And then they might come back and say, "Well, that's great. I'm getting a summary, but can you actually write the email to the customer?" So the support manager is going to say, "Hey, I'm going to keep this FAQ document updated daily or weekly, or, whatever periodic interval you agree to." And so the support manager is going to keep this frequently asked questions document updated. And we're going to point AI at this to try to solve the customer's problem. And if it finds a match on the question, it's going to turn around and send an email to the client.
So
So
that's
let's
our
take a look.
grounding, right? That's what Salesforce would call grounding your prompt. So you get your prompt, you include grounding information, which is the FAQ, and that's what turns AI's gobbledygook hallucinated responses into actionable, usable responses.
That's right. Yeah. So we kind of stepped through a series in GPT Dreaming of a very vanilla bot that doesn't have any grounding. And if you ask a ungrounded AI to summarize a case, it's going to send that out to the open LLM, and at that point, it's looking for every language, every symbol, probably going to find competitors' websites. And so, without any grounding, we're basically at the mercy of whatever this AI can find on the internet or its own language model. With grounding, if we ask the AI the same question, hey, summarize this case, then it's not gonna go out to the internet and LLMs for data. It's actually gonna stay within its grounding, and we can steer it to get the results we want. Now we're doing this manually in a chatbot and conversational AI, but how do we do this? Like, you get an email at 3 a.m. and you just want AI to do this automatically. So what we do in the subflow is we actually grab that FAQ document. So this is a get element. And I have a file over here named generator support FAQ. And I'm actually going to, in the next step, I'm going to tell the AI, again, here is your system prompt and grounding. Additionally, I'm saying a list of frequently asked questions are included. Your responses must be based on the FAQ. And the user message is going to be based on the case details and FAQ. Provide a suggested resolution that can be used. And so, yeah, let me break this one out of the.
But while you do that, I really like the solution that the FAQ document can actually sit as a file inside Salesforce, and any revisions can be uploaded as a new content revision, and then those revisions will be ingested after they're uploaded. So this way, you don't have some sort of other process that you need to follow. You can just use the core native process of content documents that we already have in Salesforce, and now you can use that as a part of your grounding for AI. That's really great.
Yeah, the art and science of DevOps and AI is still evolving, but a solid foundation is anything with version control, anything that's close to the data that's being analyzed. So again, we're merging a case with an FAQ, with user context, and we're trying to do all that within hopefully 1 or 2 seconds. And you could take a PDF for existing documents and then run it through a conversion process. But in this case, we're using a text file. The other great thing about this is there's version controls. So I'm on version 3 of this particular FAQ. And, it's an ongoing actual human curation and, an ongoing task to keep these AI-friendly FAQs going. Another option is you can actually break these FAQs down into a series of individual records. That's a different pattern for another day. But yeah, I've asked this. I've asked this AI. So based on these case details, provide a suggested resolution, less than 100 words, be concise, respond exactly with the customer-facing message. So now I'm actually crafting this email response.
Okay.
If I
Right.
didn't have that in there, it's probably just going to stick with the grounding and say the customer is having this issue and here is a suggested response. But our ultimate goal here is we want to embed this response into an email. So we do a little bit of prompting, and there's actually, we could give it an example, what's called a few shot or a multi-shot, but this model we're working with is pretty advanced and was able to just kind of figure it out. And again, so we send it to the AI and we store the response in a different variable this time. So now we have a completion coming back from GPT and we're storing it in the AI suggested resolution. So now we're kind of teed up for success. We have an internal summary and we have an external email. That's basically what we've accomplished here on the same case. We update the case. So if I go back to the case record, the summary has been updated, the suggested resolution has been updated.
The
And so
summary,
now,
suggested resolution, and now you're gunning for that response, that email.
So there's an advanced step here where in the system prompt, I can ask the AI on a scale of 1 to 5, what is your confidence that this suggested response is something we can actually show to a customer? And it's an interesting way to kind of layer AI to double check itself. Because
So not
it
only,
will, yeah,
yeah,
AI is kind of like training a child. You want positive reinforcement. It doesn't take well to negative reinforcement. You can't tell AI to not send an email, not do things. But you can say positively, hey, do whatever you want. Here's the grounding. Come up with a suggested resolution. By the way, what do you think on a scale of 1 to 5? Would you actually send that to a customer? And then, it'll go, oh, okay, I think this is a 4 or 5. I mean, and it'll tell you it's a 1 or 2 as well. So there's an interesting intermediary. This flow could get more advanced to actually do a check here at a decision point to say if the confidence threshold is greater than 3, then go ahead and send the email. So what I'm doing here, it actually gets into our product. It's kind of you're opening up a portal, which we call a room. We create it. There's already an email template associated with that, and then we invite the contact to the portal. And this is ultimately what the customer will see in their inbox. And yeah, I think we started this at 10:30 and submitted it, and at 10:31 we got a reply. So end to end, that whole flow actually ran in about, less than a minute.
hold on. Okay. So in the beginning, in the intro, you walked through that process. It ran the flow. It called AI. It used AI to generate this response. The response was evaluated then by AI to see if it met a specific threshold, and then if it met the threshold, it was sent back to the customer. And now, from a human in the loop perspective, you wouldn't just turn that on and start running. You're going to want to add the human element where you stop the email and you're looking at it and evaluating it yourself to get through the sort of onboarding process and get uh, comfortable with how AI is going to be working behind the scenes. But I think just wow, that's an incredible journey. And it's all happening right here inside of a flow. And so this tells me, and I think you mentioned this at GPT Dreamin', flow skills, and we talked about it during the skills session as well. Flow skills are going to be fundamental for anybody who's looking to use AI going forward.
Absolutely. Yeah, this whole section here to the right, this actually does the outbound communication with the results from AI. So in testing, you might just have it stop at that point. So do a summary, do a suggested resolution, update the case. And that's kind of where we left things off with the last GPT Dreaming and the Flow GPT pre-built accelerator. And then when you're ready to move forward, so that confidence threshold check is not in this flow. I thought that would be too overwhelming for this particular demo, but it just kind of goes to show, as a flow developer, with traction, with success of your solutions, people will ask for more and more. And flow is a great basis for this iterative, incremental, ongoing development. We're not writing code. We're not writing unit tests. However, we need to think like we're writing unit tests and be doing exception handling and case logging all the time. This doesn't really necessarily obviate the need for quality. But flows are very flexible. And again, from a structuring perspective, if you start your flows, your structure is lots of subflows, then you're going to see this will be a lot more manageable and maintainable over time. And yeah, there are just so many directions you can go into. The other nice thing is this is running asynchronous. So when this case gets created, all this is running asynchronously. We're not really risking blocking the case create transaction. So our governor limits and our the amount of time that we have, the call outs that we can make, the number of rules, we're getting into the minutes at that point. This could run for up to a couple minutes in some cases. So we have a lot more flexibility, and the amount of logic you can run in that amount of time is pretty significant. We ran this flow alone in about it seemed like this has been running in about 10-12 seconds. But if you have
Wow.
more time, I'm not sure how you're doing.
Yeah, I do. Before you jump into that next
Uh-huh.
demonstration, which I'm really excited to see, you were telling me about this during the preview or the behind the scenes before we got started here. But before we dive into it, I want to share with everyone and just say that this, what you just saw right here, is why at AI Force Training we took a deep dive into flows with AI, and it's because of conversations with Mike Leach. So at AI Force Training, we're teaching the skills needed to do these things, and then also in the links below, I'm going to add a link out to Mike's product iDialogue, which has a lot of what you're seeing here, sort of pre-packaged, pre-built, and you can immediately, I'm like within hours, have AI solutions deployed into your org, and then you can just go and customize from there with whatever you'd like to do. So be sure after the session's over to go into the links and check that out to learn some more. And then, Mike, I'll let you finish up on this one and then just flip right over and let's see what you've got going on with more email to case.
Yeah, I appreciate the reference to, yeah, we're using iDialogue, which is built on flows, but prompt engineering and the ability to write prompts and grounding and steering is fairly ubiquitous. It's the new operating system. I think we have a lot of consensus across the industry that these are the patterns that work with an LLM. And so what you learn, whether on your course or our product, I mean, these are transferable skills as every enterprise application. They could be financial or ERP, back office. We're going to see prompting be inserted into every application over the next 5 to 10 years. So these are definitely reusable skills. So I encourage people, whether you're taking your course, is don't necessarily look at it as you're learning a product. You're learning a skill like Excel. When you first open up a spreadsheet and it's just a lot of blank rows and columns, and you type that first equal sign, and it opens up the world of macros and these other things you can do. That's what we're doing with prompt engineering. It is a necessary tool set going forward, and but instead of hitting an equal sign and writing formulas and macros, we're writing more abstract prompts in a language that's closer to what we speak day to day.
Right.
Okay, so OpenAI held their first developer conference a few months ago, and one of the things they announced was this JSON response. And by that, I mean we can create a system prompt that instead of, you are a chatbot, behave like this, we could say, act as a shipping email agent. Again, you're dealing with email to case. We give it some grounding. But then we tell it, when you format a response, instead of giving me just one completion, like a summary or an email, actually give me a very large payload, a large JSON string with a number of key value data points in that payload. And so what we get here is the keys in this payload are mapped to custom field names or API names. And we do lots of small prompts. So we're saying, the name of the shipping person, the ship to address. And so let's take a look at what like a UPS email might look like. So I'm going to send an email via email to case. So I have this
So this is it.
endpoint.
This is as if like if it's like a shipping email alert from UPS. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So if you're any sort of shipping and you want some API integration, you want to be notified every time a shipment has been sent.
Right.
So you could get some Python or some Java and authenticate to the REST and do web hooks and callbacks, or you could set up an email to case as your callback handler and just say, hey, every time an event happens within the supply chain, just send an email to this address. And it's sometimes you can additionally have the email go to your customer. But in this case, this is an email coming back to me, who's an operator within a manufacturing company. And I want to be notified every time it's outbound. There's a shipment has been delayed, it's been shipped. And so
And you're just going to
UPS,
use AI to do that?
yeah, actually, and it's the thing is, when you opt in for UPS or FedEx notification, it's going to send you emails as if the intended audience here is a human recipient. And so I'm going to go ahead and send this.
Okay, so that was email to case. You just
So let's
pretended
just
you were like
say,
UPS
yeah,
emailing email to case.
UPS just
Okay.
delivered one of my packages to a customer,
All
and
right.
I want to get notified, but I don't have a developer in house. I can't like write an API to go out to UPS and get that
Right.
level of integration in Salesforce. Uh, so what I can do is I can just enable email to case, and within my inbox, I get this UPS notification. And it looks like any other email to case. The subject's going to be the email subject. The description of the case is going to be the body of the email. But now what I would have to do normally at an API level is parse out okay, there's a scheduled delivery date. Um, there's who it's shipped to, the address. There's I want to send maybe the tracking code to the customer. So I would have to go into this kind of raw, unstructured data and pull it out into structured fields. Well,
So
guess what you can
typically,
do?
this API, you can do that, right? Or if a human would receive this email and I would go through and update the fields inside Salesforce based on what's in the email. But you're about to show us how to do that with AI inside of a flow.
Yeah, there's a common workflow is people will just kind of like, oh, Nathan Clark, yeah, let me look up the contact, let me get the tracking information. And it takes 2 to 5 minutes, but you multiply that times 10, 20, 30 packages, and pretty soon it's a pretty substantial task. If I go to the shipping details, guess what? Look what's automatically showed up on my case.
Oh, it already ran.
It already ran.
And that's accurate.
So it's saying the shipping provider is UPS. So it looks like this is probably the text field. It wants to know the notification type. So where in the shipping life cycle was it delivered, delayed, shipped, unknown? The ship to name, Nathan Clark. That looks right. Scheduled delivery, March 1st. The tracking number looks right. In the tracking URL. So it's parsed each one of those out of the body of the unstructured email, and it's put it into a structured record format on a series of fields.
Wow. Okay, show us the behind the scenes. So you've got the flow open and you mentioned the JSON. So you've got to do this style prompting where you've got the API name for the field on the left, you've got a description of what the field is on the right in a JSON style format.
Yeah, so when I was developing this, I had a couple tabs open. So I could pull up one of these AI assistants, and either one of these I think are aware of the case. And I was looking for a series of mini prompts that would individually extract out each data point. And so, for example, if I want to know the name of the ship to person, and I would ask GPT, and it says the name of the ship to person is Nathan Clark. I go back to the details, I scroll down, and I can confirm that. Let me see. Let me cancel out of the edit here. I can confirm that, okay, on a field by field basis, each one of these mini prompts that it's correlating one to one. So so then I tell it, okay, I also kind of am foreshadowing here because there's a consumer on the other end of this after this that's going to take the JSON and it's going to update this case record using all of these field names. So we're at, let me see, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 fields. And to kind of recap GPT in August, we would have run 8 different individual GPT callouts. Now we're
Okay.
just doing one call out and we're getting one big payload back. And we got to steer it a little bit because we're actually telling it, hey, what you're providing back here is going to be written to a SQL database or SOCL, how you want to, whatever, get into there. The JSON responses must not elaborate or contain any explanations. So anytime you preface a GPT bot with, hey, you are friendly and helpful, it will kind of decorate that with some elaborate explanations. We're saying don't do that. We're basically just saying we want you to act like a REST API in this one transaction. And we're saying these values will be written to a database. And so this is a great feature of OpenAI, actually. If I were to debug this and let's just say rerun this transaction.
And why are you debugging it?
Well, I'm debugging it because I actually want to see that raw JSON payload, because what I did after I received the JSON payload is I called this update case element. And this is one of the actions that's available within our product. Our product has 2 or 3 pre-built actions that purely operate on the assumption that you're using AI for a JSON payload. So we're getting AI to give us JSON. We're doing upsert, updates, inserts on that, and we can also do some outbound callouts to REST API. We can actually call APIs with a JSON payload. We can post, get, various HTTP methods. But the reason I went into debug is because we would not have seen that last step, because we're updating the record with a lot of individual fields in a summary. But if we look at this specific, this is the one that's doing the call out. And you can see output here. So this is what GPT gave us back. And without any embellishing, it starts out with valid JSON. We have curly brace. And all of my placeholders where I said, hey, ship to name, and then I gave it a kind of a micro prompt, it's actually resolved that. So you can kind of think of this as like a merge templating kind of pattern.
Interesting.
We get
And
back
because
to,
and because you got it back in this structure, because OpenAI allowed you to force the response, so to speak, via prompting, via their tool set into the JSON structure, this is what allows you to now quickly and easily go and update the record based on the response, right?
That's right. Yeah, the objective here is to go from an unstructured email body and get it to a structured data, a case record. And in between there, we need to do this transformation. So what we've done is we've taken the unstructured body and we've put it into a structured JSON payload. And then we can turn around and we can post this JSON payload to Salesforce, and it actually will update these individual fields. So from however you want to look at it, from model view controller, full stack programming, this is kind of a middleware. And a JSON is kind of a generally agreed upon format for a lot of portability and moving data around that makes really no assumptions on the database type. And a lot of browsers communicate to websites via JSON as well.
Okay. So where's the step where you actually update the record?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the output of this flow goes to JSON, and we have an output, JSON completion result. We're doing our test for success. If the response was successful, then again, it's an action here. I can drag and drop, and on the type ahead, I think it's called something like AI JSON to S object action. So I've added one of those actions to the canvas. And here's where that takes place. And you can think of this as like, this can do a create, upsert, update, has various actions. So we're telling it, here's the record ID for a case object that we want you to update using this JSON payload string, the JSON completion result. And yeah, that's basically it. So I've set this
Wow.
update action. There's a lot of these on-off flags. I could do an upsert, which would be I have to provide an external field name. If
Okay.
there are existing cases, most likely we would use an upsert. Because this is a new case and we have a record ID, we're going to just update it. Or we could do an insert. We could actually take a JSON payload and we could set this insert action to true, and it will create a new record based on going from this unstructured to a structured medium.
So 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 takeaways then, because you just showed really two great use cases. Both just happened to include email to case, which I thought was really interesting. But in both cases, you created a case, AI took the case information and then took some sort of action based on the case. And it all happened behind the scenes and it all happened within seconds. And so I see this theme of skills that are needed here. And it's understanding AI, understanding how to use it, understanding how to get your prompts right inside of a flow, understanding all the flow logistics, understanding the tool sets like iDialog to get that done. Uh, just fundamental AI training overall. It seems to me, based on what everything that we've looked at today, that the future of integrating AI into the org is here. I mean, it's already here. At least the capabilities are already here. We have TDX just around the corner from Salesforce. We expect big things from that, including some GA rollout if possible. There's just a lot of moving parts here. How are professionals to keep up? There's so much going on. You talked about this. There was a slide you presented at GPT Dreamin'. Talk about that. What's your perspective on how professionals are to keep up with all these moving pieces?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I can reassure people that even if you just learn very generic prompting in ChatGPT, that is a fundamental skill set that can be repurposed in the future of AI being incorporated into enterprise applications. And where we're seeing what you probably want to do as a Salesforce admin or developer is you want to find these low-hanging fruit, kind of quick win, low risk use cases. Most often it's going to be like our file GPT has immediate value, analyzing contracts and agreements, drafting agreements, anything that's where you're dealing with unstructured data. And most often documents are the number one unstructured data source, and going forward documents probably, contracts and agreements aren't going anywhere. So that's, as a professional, that's a good place. Look at your processes, particularly ones that are document driven, and then ratchet it up. In your GPT Dreamin', we talked about sales enablement. So every time a Salesforce admin rolls out a new page layout or new fields, or there's required or validation rule functionality, to kind of buffer the shock of the end users, they usually put some sort of like training material out there, sales enablement guides. And we talked about this in GPT Dreamin'. We actually built a chat bot where you could ask it questions about, how do I use this record? And, I could see, when you're building a mobile application or a desktop application, you always put that question mark with a circle around it, right? That's the universal icon for support and help. And, end users' eyes are kind of ingrained towards, oh, okay, if I do have a question with this user interface, that's going to be my path to getting support. So that is something you can build today, but the help and online support is going to be a chatbot, and that can be backed by a simple text file. It can be backed by multimedia. And then I would say what we showed today is getting into kind of some like level 3 in complexity, email to case, because these are happening asynchronously in the background. But at the same time, this is what's converting some of our customers into a 9 to 5 business into a 24/7 business. The AI is handling some workloads for a couple of our clients where they've gone from 1 or 2 people handling the front lines to like 5 people, have tripled the revenue. I actually had one customer say we need to temporarily turn off the AI because it was creating too much top of funnel demand. And so it is one of these things where, when applied in the right place, can be 10x efficient, like immediately. And I don't even know what to anticipate the cascading impacts. Once you make top of funnel or lead generation more efficient, if people on the back end are say, "Whoa, time out, where did that come from?" Suddenly we've got like 100 inquiries, and AI is sending all these emails, and the call to action is really relevant. So it's fun. It's why I think we're entering. This is not just an evolution. This is a revolution. We're entering a new phase of compute. Whole new businesses are going to be built from the ground up on this capability. We may even see, like Sam Altman, CEO of OpenAI, says we'll see the first one-man billion-dollar valuation business. And that person is probably already cranking out code and prompts in the background and is going to figure out some viral social network that's going to take off overnight. And the relevance of that content is just going to be so magical. So it's here now, but try to find those quick wins and the easy wins. And we're trying to do that with AI Force Training and collaborating with you on the content. And the final thought I'll leave is that I don't think people are going to want to build all these AI models. They're going to want to go to an app store. It's like, oh, I want the FedEx, UPS pre-built bot. I want the pre-built
Yep.
sales enablement. I want the pre-built contract manager. So it's public on our website. It's on our roadmap, and there's actually sketches. There's functional prototypes, and we've been showing our pilot customers. And so that's where we need to go to help professionals, which is, you should be able to just pull an AI model, pre-train everything off the shelf and run with it.
Well, that will be really impressive. I think, that would be something that certainly closes the gap in the ecosystem for adoption when you can come on and watch a demonstration like this and then immediately go to the app store, pull it and implement it. Within a few hours, you're up and running. And you could, as a Salesforce professional, you could then be delivering the thing that 10x is your top line in lead flow, right? And then you could be the superhero for your organization, especially in a climate when all businesses are looking to do more with the same resources as much as possible. So I couldn't agree. I echo your comments more. I think anyone who's interested in AI or is leaning into AI or recognizes that AI is the future for Salesforce professionals, you've got to lean in. You've got to start learning these skill sets, and you can do things like what you just saw today. You can execute those niche, custom, or soon to be pre-built solutions, AI solutions for your organizations, and you become the superhero. So yeah, I couldn't agree more. Everyone needs to lean in, start learning these skill sets. It's flows, it's prompting, it's all the things that we teach at AI Force Training, and it's leaning into the skill sets that you demonstrated today. So just want to thank you so much, Mike, for coming on. Again, if you are watching this later, you're going to see some links in the comments at aiforcetraining.com/live. You can see those down below over to iDialogue and to AI Force Training. And thanks again, Mike. Super appreciate it. All right. And I'm going to send us out here. All right.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks everyone for joining. Register for the next event in the upcoming sessions below, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.